Imagine you've just arrived back off holiday, somewhat jet-lagged, after paying a company to look after your vehicle whilst you're on holiday, only to find that it's been driven around 300 miles, your chewing gum disappeared, and it just looks like it's been used for a week. That's exactly what happened to Nicola, mum of two, who paid a company £50 to make sure that her vehicle was safe while she was on holiday. Now, as I read this article in The Sun this morning, she says that she looks online for some reviews, but here's where a bit of a problem comes in. Because when I look up this company name and with the reviews that are left, it brings up this page here, which is Skylink Group Limited trading as Skylink Parking. However, in the description on the right-hand side, it also says, please review us only if your booking reference starts with SLLHR. If you've used Skylink Parking Service via the below websites, then this is not us. Please note we're a separate entity from Skylink Parking Services or skylinkparking.co.uk. So it's entirely possible that this company here has received hundreds of negative reviews incorrectly because it's not, in fact, the same company. I don't really know because I haven't fully investigated this, but either way, it's a company with a very similar name. So here's where a real difficulty comes in. If there is a rogue trader using your company name and gets it confused with someone else's, but then they get a flurry of negative reviews to that website, it can obviously damage the reputation of that company. But aside from that issue for a moment, if we look at the actual booking of the car and the fact that it's been used for purposes other than it was booked for, this can amount to a number of different things. First of all, it can be the tort of conversion of property. Conversion of property essentially means that they've used the vehicle as though they were the owner. So they are exercising the rights of the owner to use it as though they were the owner, when in fact they are not. So in this case, whichever company it is, if they've been paid to keep the vehicle safe and secure and parked and stored, then clearly they should not be using it to drive around, use up the fuel, and even use up the chewing gum that was in the car. Conversion of property is normally a civil matter rather than a criminal one, although it can be charged as a criminal offence depending on the circumstances. Now, this type of conversion of property sort of overlaps with taking a vehicle without consent. Now, whilst they've been paid to store the vehicle, they've then ostensibly taken the vehicle elsewhere without consent. So quite arguably, this can amount to taking a vehicle without consent, and the conversion part, using up the fuel and using it as a drive-around vehicle for the time that she was on holiday without her permission. So clearly, in my view, on the face of it, there is a claim there for the value of the fuel and the value of what she would have hired the vehicle out for if she did in fact choose to hire that vehicle to anybody, because clearly there'll be a monetary value attached to that. But not only that, the person doing it may well be guilty of a criminal offence as well, because it could amount to taking a vehicle without consent. So if you are going to use one of these parking services, which seem to pop up in their abundance these days, I would absolutely do full due diligence on the company that you are using so that you know exactly where your car is going to be stored, for how long, and just ensure that it's not going to be used for any other purposes. For example, a few months ago, I did another video where someone had their vehicle parked on someone else's driveway, and the parking company were using other people's driveway as a place to store that vehicle. And essentially the occupier of the house went to the newspapers because this vehicle was apparently just dumped on their property without their permission, and there didn't seem to be a lot they could do about it. The police certainly weren't interested, although an abandoned vehicle should be the responsibility of the local authority and or the police to remove. But in that case, on the face of it, it seemed to be a parking company service that had parked that vehicle on their driveway whilst the holidaymakers were away. But also, as I say, when you're leaving reviews for companies like this, you really need to make sure you get the correct company, because it's not really clear to me without some investigation, which I don't have time for doing this short video, as to whether this really is the correct company. They say that it isn't, so it's anyone's guess without that investigation. So that just shows that unless you really know who it is that you are contracting with, and the way you really ought to do that is get the company name and the company number, check them out on Companies House, make sure that you know exactly what the company is, that those are the company details left on the website and on the invoice. And of course, if you do go to somewhere like Trustpilot, that you check that it's the correct company. And if you did happen to end up in a situation like this where someone's used your vehicle without permission, you could, on the face of it, raise a claim against them for any value lost in terms of the fuel and in terms of what you would have charged if you did decide to hire out your vehicle to somebody for that week. But of course, if you're in that position, as always, you must seek out without formal legal advice. But this is just one of those cases where it can seem on the surface to be very complicated as to how you deal with it. So the best suggestion if you're on your own without a lawyer in this position is to simply describe exactly what happened and file your claim in court. So let me know in the comments if you've had any similar experiences to any of these. Please do remember to like this video and subscribe. That really helps my channel grow. And as always, thank you for watching.